shout out to everybody who came in and watched and joined in the comments and saw maybe meeting some of the writers for the first time on the 1 year anniversary show. That was this past weekend because, 1 year anniversary here basically now. And, I think we'll probably do some sort of 1 year anniversary show. Maybe me and Danny will do a show or something like that. But I guess my part in the show, Horatio and I were on half an hour-ish into the show. So if you're going to YouTube, going to Hobbynewsdaily, the YouTube channel, and watching that 4-hour live stream, about a half an hour in, that's when Horatio and I joined, and we had our piece of it. Like I said, meeting all the writers. I'm hoping that, people got to be introduced to some new writers that are fans of, if you're a fan of Hobby News Daily, I'm hoping that you learned about new writers. Maybe you learned about something new. But like I said, shout out to everybody that came and watched that show. Over the weekend, there was a sale of which this is actually a pretty wild one. It was a Kobe ring that he gave to his dad that sold through Golden Auctions for just under $1 million, $927,000 from the 2000 Lakers championship team. Sold through Golden. And then, Ravel tweeted about it, and then Ken Golden also tweeted about it and said, this is why consigners go to Golden to get the highest price and the most publicity for their key items. Seller of this ring approximately made 5x his money in 3 years. The previous record for a ring, championship ring, was Bill Russell's first ring that sold back in December of 2021 for $705,000. And I think the kind of conversation that I want to have on today's podcast is mainly about the promotion of cards through the auction houses, and also through mainly the auction houses. Because I don't know, or maybe it's not just auction houses. It's the promotion of sports cards selling in general. I have very conflicting thoughts on if I think it's good for cards or if I think it's not good, because on one hand, I think, you want to get the most eyeballs on your cards and you want to sell them for the highest price. Like if you're selling a card or you're selling, any piece of memorabilia or something through Golden, you want to sell it for the most value, obviously. And that's not even an argument, I don't think. And I'm not going to begrudge anyone for trying to get the most money they can. I think that there are different ways that I've seen it that I don't like. Now, some of you may remember there was a Babe Ruth card that was selling through, I think maybe it was Heritage, or I don't remember exactly what it was, but people were saying, industry people, which I think they were getting that information, industry people within the industry, and then there were articles written about this that were from outside the industry. There was a clear marketing promotion done on this card for it to sell. And I think I'm not necessarily a buyer of any of this high-end stuff. So, when, maybe I wasn't following the Kobe ring, so I didn't really even know until it sold what that it was on sale in general. It seems like a pretty significant piece of memorabilia, but like I said, not something that I'm into. So, the promotion, then the promotion of that Babe Ruth card led to it not even selling close to what people were saying it was going to sell for. People were promoting that it was going to be the most expensive sports card of all time, and a lot of other claims that in the end didn't really come through. So here's where I think the promotion of sports cards I'm torn on, because and I don't think the market is like this as much, but I think what we have seen in the past, and maybe what has happened in the past won't repeat potentially. But, I think there's a saying history, if you don't learn from history, you're going to repeat itself, or something along those lines. I don't know the exact quote, but I know it's something like that. And what we did see in the pandemic era and, through 2020 and stuff was that, people were just like, yeah, you should buy this card, which I think that's maybe a whole nother conversation for another day, is the not financial advice aspect of when cards were getting so popular and people were saying they were investments, and people were telling you when to buy and when to sell. I don't know. It seems I think sports cards is the least of really our worries in terms of like people getting scammed from just blindly listening to somebody telling you to buy something. So with Golden, like, I'm guessing there must be some sort of option, like when you're selling the card for there to be like, promotion of the card, I guess, through the company. Because like Ken Golden said, you sell through Golden, you're going to maximize the potential money that you're making on the card. But it's like, at what point, like, because Golden can't tweet out every single card that they're selling through all of their auctions. Like, even their high-end auctions, they're not going to be able to tweet out all of those cards. And even if they do, if they're tweeting them out, then it becomes diluted, and it's almost like a cycle of, like, is the promotion of the card even really helping the price? And this is, like I said, sort of where my skepticism of the marketing around selling specific sports cards, I'm not sure if I love it, because I think you look at, like, with Golden, I think is one example. It's like, you look at people selling through Golden, if they're expecting that they're going to sell for a certain amount, like, the promotion of it is almost, it's helping, but it's also maybe inflating the price to maybe a price where it shouldn't sell for that much. Like, that Babe Ruth card, that was a planted story. Those were planted people saying, there's also, just to get one thing straight, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. The promotion, they didn't do anything scammy on it. They just promoted it, and they took out media pieces, and they wrote, articles and, the Washington Post and random kind of some of the mainstream articles. But I think the issue when it comes to that is, like, at what point does somebody buying a card, like, are they being persuaded to buy a card where maybe they didn't need to or they didn't want to? I think that's one thing that I really get a little bit nervous about. But I do think that one of the big changes, a couple big changes within the market, and I always talk about the big changes, but like one that I think is probably pretty significant is the fact that I think the market has gotten smarter because of all of the resources that are available for buyers and sellers nowadays. Like, in the past, if you were buying and selling a card, it's just based on, like, when there was just eBay, really. Like, you were just looking at eBay prices. Like, there wasn't really there weren't many companies that were like Card Ladder or the Sports Card Investor platform where you can track the sales of the cards. You're basing it off of Beckett. So it's like, if you have a card that's selling like that, and you're just looking at what Beckett's saying about it, you're going to trust that they know what they're talking about. So, like, it's the same thing with Golden, in my opinion, which at the same time I think the smarter aspect of the card market right now, I think, is based on probably people, buying too high and not selling at the right time, or just in general buying cards that were too expensive. So, like, with Golden, if you should know that if you're seeing any promotion coming from Golden, the intention is to raise the price of the card. I think with marketing and stuff along those lines, as long as the projection is not, like, as obvious as that Babe Ruth card, if I'm going to be honest, I think the promotion of cards is fine. And I think the market right now, it has become smarter, and I think that also makes a significant factor in, like, the promotion of cards, because, back in the day, there was probably a decent shot that people were just buying cards because, people were being told to buy them. Like, whatever content creator. I mean, I know that I've made content like this where I'm just like, these are some cards that I like and that you could buy. I don't think I've really ever made, I don't know, I can't think of necessarily off the top of my head if there was ever content that was just like, you have to buy this card, or, this is definitely a buy, or, there's definitely ones like that, but, the mischievous or the non-ethical ways, they've gone down, I think, significantly, just because we've seen groups of people and crops of people come in and out of the hobby, and, I still think that there's probably content out there that's like, the buying and selling of cards and tracking prices. And if they see a card that they like, they're going to tell their audience and stuff like that. And does that affect the price of the card? I mean, I think so. Like, I'm not here to argue, because I can't, because it's the market. It's like, it's what I've always said. The market is going to determine the price of the card. So or memorabilia piece in this scenario. Like, the market didn't end up determining that this was worth what it was worth, but like the promotion of it, did they do extra promotion on this item, or did they tell other people who, like, and again, it's like, it's just sales. Like, if you're seeing marketing from the company, that they're just trying to increase the price of the card. So it's just something to be cognizant of, like, when you're buying and selling cards. If you're buying them through Golden or PWCC, and you're buying any of the cards that they have talked about on social media, just know that, like, there might be a little bit of an inflated value because of what they're doing on social media, where, I don't know, if you're finding the card and it's like not necessarily something that's been promoted, maybe you're getting a little bit of a better price, but at the same time, the market is going to determine what that price is. And I would say in most scenarios, there's going to be buyers for most cards, obviously depending on the price, but even with cards that, probably shouldn't sell for certain amounts, because there is a market, and as soon as there's a market and there's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 buyers, that's what ends up driving up the price of some of these things. And with this memorabilia, with this Kobe ring, I think you definitely saw, the marketing that was done around for Golden. And then obviously if you have 1 or 2 people or 3 people that want this thing, that's just in the big picture of everything. That's probably also going to affect the price as well, where, if you have multiple people that want the same thing, and there's only one of them, it's not like it's a card where you can just go buy another one. It's a one-of-a-kind ring. It's a one-of-a-kind championship ring. You're not going to be able to find another one. But just know that, like, if there's promotion going around the card, you may be paying a little bit too much. And if you're buying a card that's not rare, it's probably just safer to not overspend on that card and either go back to eBay or even through Golden or, PWCC, whoever's selling the card, and see if there's other versions. Because, if Golden is promoting the card, most likely there's going to be a little bit of an extra not fee necessarily, but there's going to be extra money you're going to have to spend because there is a little bit of marketing and promotion behind the card. So, to be honest, I don't know. There isn't really much else to talk about when it comes to the women's, NCAA tournament. I think I've covered it on multiple different shows. I mean, the Elite Eight and the Final Four that's set up, and it really was such a, there was a Saturday, I think it was the last weekend, where it was like 4 straight games of like, I think it was like LSU, Iowa, UConn, USC all played right in a row. And like I said, there isn't necessarily as much to talk about with it, because I think, unless we see some crazy stuff with tops coming out with the final or with the Final Four, I don't know if there's really necessarily a huge amount left to talk about that I haven't already kind of covered on other episodes of this podcast. But one thing that I did want to cover was I saw that Topps obviously came out with their Caitlin Clark, all-time leading scorer cards. And on the 1-of-1, she actually inscribed NCAA women's all-time scoring champion, which I think is very cool. I think inscriptions, and that's actually what I'm going to talk about. So inscriptions is basically what I'm going to talk about on this podcast. And I've talked about that when, the Brady card was coming out. There was like a couple different Bradys. I think all the ones that were numbered 12, I believe those had special inscriptions on them. So essentially it makes them 1-of-1s, which, in non, I don't know, I guess it's interesting because, I feel like the 1-of-1s have a certain, they probably have a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? They probably have a certain, like, pull rate. And then same with the number to 5s, not pull rate, that's not the word I'm looking for. But, like, I like the odds, sorry, I blanked on the name, like pack odds, basically. So, like, the 1-of-1s are, and Topps does a fine job with pack odds. Now, obviously, this one was, it was one of the Topps Now Bowman U cards, so it wasn't like in a pack or anything. But there are odds on the 1-of-1s, and then there are going to be odds on probably some of the other numbered cards, I would imagine, unless they do it where it's odds on just the autographs in general. I'm not I forget off the top of my head which way they do it. But that being said, I think the inscriptions, I I feel very torn, as I do with most topics, if I'm going to be completely honest. I feel very torn with if I like the inscriptions or if I don't like the inscriptions. I think in this scenario, I do like it because it's not on like a different card making the other card technically of 1 of 1, because like, the Brady card, the 12 of 50 or whatever, the 12 of 99, those are essentially 1 of 1s because if they're doing an inscription. So I think. And also, sorry, and then actually I didn't even think, I completely forgot until I just was mentioning it. The Victor Wembanyama cards that are in Topps Dynasty, those are also having some inscriptions on them. So, I don't know. I think there are certain cards where I'm okay with inscriptions, and then there are certain ones where I feel like, I don't know if I would go that route. Like, I think with Topps Dynasty, if I'm going to be honest, that's a product where I would probably, the cards are so nice looking that I don't think you really need to do anything to add any extra value or any extra anything onto the cards, because they're such high quality and they're such good looking cards that, like, I don't know, adding some of the, adding an inscription in the scenario with Victor Wembanyama, he did little doodles on there, and I know some people probably loved it, and like I said, again, I think I'm very torn on it, I guess, one way or the other. I wish maybe he hadn't done that. Actually, now that I'm not really torn on it, I don't like that he did that. I don't like he did that on the 1 of 1, doing the doodles or whatever. I think if it's a Bowman card, or if it's some other, I don't know, if it's some other type of card, like, I guess I'm okay with them doing inscriptions on certain cards, but I also think the inscriptions really need to be on, if they're going to do inscriptions, they should just stick to the 1 of 1s, and they should plan on what they're going to do with these inscriptions. Like, all the 1 of 1s should probably be inscriptions if they're going to do it that way. Like, I know that there was a Rockies player, I think his name was like, I think it was like Kobe or Colt Montgomery, I think. He did a bunch of inscriptions on a lot of his Bowman cards. Now, I don't think those were his first Bowmans. I think that was his second or third time that he's had autographs within Bowman. So again, that's another scenario where it's like, I guess I'm okay with it. But it does add, I guess it adds a little bit of extra value, not value, it adds a little bit of extra onto certain cards that maybe there shouldn't be that extra value. Value. I think I said I didn't want to use the word, I wasn't going to use the word value, but I think value is probably the difference here with why I think maybe these cards there needs to be a plan with the inscription. Like, if it's just showing up at Topps's facility with an inscription on it, I don't love that. If they have a plan that they say, hey, Caitlin Clark, do on the 1 of 1 of this card, do an inscription, write whatever you want. Same with Brady. The Brady was probably planned because those were numbered to 12. I think all the numbered to 12 autos within that Bowman product were those inscription autos. So like I said, there's a plan there. With these Topps Dynasty cards, I can't imagine that they were like, hey, Victor Wembanyama, go ahead and just doodle on the card. Like, not even do, like, just, if he wrote number 1 pick, that's okay. But the doodling is where I'm kind of like, okay, man, like, I don't really love that. The 1 of 1 for Caitlin Clark here, I do like that one. I think the Brady one, I'm in between whether I like doing the inscriptions on the Brady, because, like I said, it adds almost extra 1 of 1s within a product. And actually, I guess in theory, that is a good thing for consumers. And like I said, it was planned, so I do like that one. So I think there are levels to where I think it's okay, and where maybe I would ask them to not do that or whatever. And I know with the Topps Dynasty, I think those are on card auto, so it's not even like they could have gone back and be like, hey, can you fix this? And the same with the Caitlin Clark. I believe those ones were on card autos. I'm looking at the card right now. It's an on card auto. So to do that on a card where you don't really have an opportunity to fix it. Like, you can't remake the card, and then, like with the stickers, and I guess maybe that's one reason why, maybe stickers are potentially better for cards. It's like, it maybe limits the possibility that an autograph is going to, maybe do something like that. Like, it's going to have, or do something like that in terms of, like, have an inscription, I suppose. So, I think that there are levels to where I'm okay with inscriptions and where I'm not okay with them. I think we've definitely seen them more now that I'm thinking about it over the past like year or so than we really had. I mean, at least big cards. I think we've definitely seen inscriptions in autographs, but like cards that are like so, in my opinion, so monumental. Wembanyama being in the Topps Dynasty, Brady being in Bowman. This Caitlin Clark, it's not necessarily in a product, but it is, I think it's obviously a super important card, when she broke the women's record for scoring. I don't know if she did it on the what's it called? The, 1-of-1 when she broke the actual full record, like the men's and women's record. I don't know if she did that for sure. I know, because I'm looking at the card now, it says breaks the women's NCAA record for scoring, not just the total one. So I don't know if she did that on the other one as well. Potentially. And this one, that one too, if you look at Caitlin Clark's autograph, she probably made it a little bit smaller so that way she could fit the inscription. I just, like I said, hope that with some of these cards, that if they have a plan going into how they're going to use the inscription, or if if they just look at it from a person looking at it from, I don't know, 10,000 feet. That's not exact. Again, I'm kind of blanking on some of the analogies that I'm trying to use on this episode, but but if they look at it from like a big picture, maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Like if they look at it from the big picture and they say, well, we know that there's going to be inscriptions and we're telling players to do it. I think that's maybe a route I'd like to see Topps do, rather than kind of have it be like, it's fair game with whatever you want to do. Like not really know one way or the other whether there's going to be an inscription on one of these cards. I think that if they have a plan going in, that's the way to go. I think if they're and again, like I said, also I think that there needs to be a plan, and they need to really kind of stick to a certain amount of products that they're going to do these inscriptions with. Because if they don't, then I don't know, the autographs in themselves, I don't know. I think some people are like very traditional and they like just the plain regular autograph on the card. Some people probably really like the inscription. So I guess for me, like I said, it kind of scales. It kind of depends on the situation. For some people, they may really like it. For some people, they may not. I guess we'll see if Topps has any plans for what they're going to do with any types of inscriptions over the next few years. If they're going to continue with this type of style, or if they're going to be like, okay, yeah, we need to reel it back a little bit because things are getting a little bit too crazy. I guess this might be the first time that I've noticed that this has happened. We haven't really had a talent like Connor Bedard. I don't know. Maybe Connor McDavid was probably the last one, and I believe he was a rookie back in 2013. Austin Matthews, I think, was pretty good. I guess Cole Marner probably, but I don't know if they had these cards. So basically what I'm talking about is that there are cards that are given to Upper Deck employees that are Connor Bedard signed, autographs. Autograph cards for Connor Bedard are given to employees at Upper Deck, and apparently, well, not apparently, some of them are on eBay. So there's some people that are selling them. I don't know. That seems kind of weird to me. It's their card, so they should be able to do whatever they want. But if I'm if I had to guess, just based on, I haven't necessarily worked in the corporate world for that long, or even worked in enough corporate environments where I've seen different types of, bonus structures or, bonuses in general, I guess. So maybe this is a situation where, like, they either offered money or they offered the card for some sort of bonus. Which, I guess in theory, if you're taking the card over the money, it probably makes sense that you're going to want to sell the card. And I don't think I have any problem with, Connor Bedard's autograph market being a little bit flooded with these cards. They are, like I said, they're exclusives with employees at Upper Deck. So it's their decision what they get to do with the card. You can't really, you wouldn't, I guess in theory you could, and this is all speculative, and I'm kind of, I don't know. It's interesting to me, and I guess it's kind of like I've seen some people Like, I think I saw, I don't know, it might have been Darren Ravel tweeting about it, but most recently it was over the weekend where I saw a sports card investor talking about one of the cards being on eBay. One of the cards listed on eBay had 10 hours left, so this was a day ago, so this card probably sold. So it was at $2,700, which it probably sold, I would say if it was 10 hours, if it was a day ago, it's probably, I don't know, probably sold about $3K if I had to guess. I'm just estimating, just based because we're in the middle of the show here, and with these cards, 19 other have appeared on eBay. Again, I guess I'm torn with this in a sense that like Upper Deck should just. I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess I don't know how employees got these cards. If there are rules when you get this card, I hope that the employees are following the rules. I'm sure there's loopholes. I'm hoping that it's not a situation where it's like, I don't know. I'm hoping it's not a situation where it's like employees shouldn't be selling these cards, but they are. Now here's the thing. I don't think they're numbered. I don't believe they're numbered, but I think with the cards, they're employee exclusive cards. So it's like, that Upper Deck employee, it's not like this is a card that like, I don't know, could have slipped into a pack. Like these are cards that are specifically given out to Upper Deck employees. So that Upper Deck employees are the ones selling the cards. And I don't know. It's like I said, it's a weird conundrum where it's like, well, should the employees be selling gifts that they're getting from the company? Like, again, I think if there are rules against it, then obviously not. But if there are no rules, then I don't know. I guess you could say that it's fair game. If someone wants to make the extra $2,700 or $3K or whatever the card ended up selling for, sure, I guess that's fine. With Bedard in general, I think it's we've seen, he's a generational talent, and he's been like insane, ridiculous. He has very much like a Connor McDavid aspect to him, where the things that he does on the ice go viral on social media, and within hockey, we really don't see that very often. I would say one of the things that really made the NBA, that really brought the NBA to a new level, back, it's always been popular. It's always been probably like a top 1 or 2 sport, I think, honestly, in America. But I think, it fluctuates. But either way, I think in the, late 2000s, early 2010s into the 2020s now, Steph Curry really brought the social media of basketball up to a whole nother level, and I think that's what Connor McDavid did for. we saw players like other that try to replicate what Steph Curry did, and then more players starting to do it, and that's what ended up happening with basketball. With hockey, I guess it's like, it's probably not as easy to do the stuff that Connor McDavid is doing. Right now he's probably one of the best players in the league. I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, he's on pace to like break like all the scoring records, points records. We still have Ovechkin, who, if I'm not mistaken, he's like 50 points off from the all-time points record, which that's obviously going to be pretty significant. I think an interesting fact about him is that he actually didn't have a rookie card in his rookie year, or he didn't have the cup card in his rookie year, and him and Sidney Crosby are actually both in that original cup product that Crosby was a rookie in there, and then Ovechkin, people consider it a rookie because, like, I don't know, I guess, it was his first cup, card, because they had that year during Crosby's rookie year, which was Ovechkin's second year technically after he'd been drafted. They hadn't. That was the first year of the cup. Like, they hadn't come out with that product before. Which, again, if you've ever heard of Carvin, I forget his last name. But he was a person who I've met at the National a couple times. He was like the inventor of Exquisite and the Cup, which are like insane that one person could have that big of an impact on sports cards with, that we didn't really even know about until it was actually so funny how I met him originally was on Clubhouse, which some of you may remember was like big during like the pandemic and during quarantine and stuff, where there were people getting into sports card discussions on the app. And one day I just remember popping into one of the discussions and he was talking about how he invented Exquisite. And I was like, and people were like, whoa, wait a second. What are you saying? And he goes, yeah. And then he told the whole story about how like he worked at Upper Deck and he had all these ideas. And then finally they did the Exquisite. And then obviously now we know how important that Exquisite card is in the history of sports cards with Upper Deck. Now back to McDavid here. I mean, not McDavid, sorry, Connor Bedard. We do know also that Upper Deck did switch they switched the configuration of their flagship product. Was it a coincidence that it happened in the year of Connor they did it again, Connor Bedard? I don't really know. There's no one is they'll never come out with a statement of it because it's like, why would you? There's no reason to. Even though, as soon as I saw the checklist, I was like, wait, what? No, not the checklist. As soon as I saw the configuration, I was like, wait, whoa, what are we doing here? What's going on? Why are they? This configuration has been the same for forever. And all of a sudden, when we have a generational talent, the first one that we've had in maybe 8 or 9 years, 10 years. I mean, McDavid, that's probably the 8 or 9 years. But I'd say McDavid is the last really generational talent that came in as a generational talent, has kind of fulfilled that prophecy, I suppose. But the first time that we have one of those, we're just switching the configuration to give people less cards. Like, that didn't make much sense to me. So the McDavid, I did it again. The Connor Bedard autographs that these employees are given, I don't know. I think what you're buying. If you're buying it, that it's not necessarily, it's not like pack pulled. It's not really hard to get. It's probably limited. It's probably not hard to get in the sense that you have employees that have just been given the card. They don't have to search for it in a pack. So you know what you're getting if you're buying one of these cards. I think it's, a good way to get more autographs, I suppose, of his into the market as a rookie. Because, like I said, you're going to get less cards in those Upper Deck flagship products. So there aren't going to be as many autographs. Should the employees be able to sell them? I don't know. I'm torn on that because I think if it's a gift from Upper Deck, I just think honestly, here's the last point I'll make. I think it all just comes down to if there were any rules or what Upper Deck's thought process was when they were giving these cards. Like, if the person whose idea it was to do these cards expected employees not to sell them, then I think that's pretty silly. And the only other thing is, like, there's no real checklist, so we don't know how many of them exist. And I don't know. I mean, it may be a thing where it's like the first couple are selling for this 2,000-3,000 mark, but as more, because then, this is sort of a thing. It's like when the first card of a thing sells and then more hit the market, and then, actually, no, this is a little bit different. I think this scenario is a little bit different. So when the first couple sell, people are going to say, oh, $2,000 or $3,000, like, I'm going to sell mine. And then that increases the, hypothetical print run that exists for these cards, which then, I guess in theory should bring the price down. Sometimes that doesn't happen in sports cards, which I find, the market sometimes with supply and demand works a little bit strange when it comes to cards selling. But for this card specifically, like I said, if there were no rules, like if Upper Deck said you can sell this card, or if they didn't say, or if they didn't explicitly say you can't sell it, then, I guess I'm fine with them selling it. If you're buying the card, you know what you're getting. Don't be upset if, hypothetically down the road you try and sell it and there are actually like thousands of these cards. Because I think, with this price tag, I think we're going to see a lot more hit the market just because everybody's going to try and cash in here. And that's sort of the other thing when it comes to the market and cards in general. It's like, once an influx of these cards hit the market, more people are going to be able to buy them. They're probably going to be able to buy them at a cheaper price. And unfortunately, maybe the people that bought them at 3K thinking they were a little bit more exclusive, unfortunately, they're probably going to be not so lucky here when more of these cards eventually hit the market. Because if they're selling for 2 or 3K, like, if you're an Upper Deck employee and you're getting this as a gift, like, why not get the extra money for this card versus just, I don't know, keeping it, or if they didn't get a bonus, or if they did get a bonus, I guess those are kind of also factors as well. But like I said, it all comes down to really what Upper Deck said you could or couldn't do with the card. That'll guide my opinion one way or the other if I think this was a good idea or if I don't really like that they were able to sell these cards. So we are about a month out from one of the biggest releases of the year, Bowman Baseball. It's going to have one of the picks from last year's draft. Topps has changed the order of how they do it. Sometimes in Bowman Draft, they do the first and the third pick. In other years, they've done the first 3 picks. Some years, they do the first pick. So it's going to have one of those 3 top picks from Bowman Draft. Any of the international signings, there's some big names every year for international signings, depending on where they're going. But one thing that I found interesting about the way that they've been rolling out this release, at least, which is actually not coming out until May 8th is when I saw the date for the release. So we're about a month away. And the reason I'm talking about this today is that maybe I'm mistaken here, but they released the design. Like, this is just the first initial release, which again, I may be mistaken here, but I always remember them coming out with Bowman products or the Bowman design like months and months and months, like almost 6 months before they actually released the new product. And I think, I must have talked about this on a previous show with some other design, because I think this is maybe now Topps and Fanatics' strategy is to maybe switch it up. And again, this is all based on the fact that I may be mistaken here for sure, but like, I don't remember them coming out with the design until, like I said, I saw it the other day. And a couple different things that I have seen online talking about this product is, first of all, obviously, this is your reminder, be careful when you're buying prospects. Watch the breaks posted about last year's number 1 player from Bowman was Drew Jones, which I still think, he's obviously young and still has a lot of potential. But he's not even really a top prospect now. Like, he's not even here. He wasn't in the top 5 at the beginning of the season. I don't even think he was in the top 10. And his cards, you can find them online for like $1 or $2, really. Like, which, again, if you're prospecting, be careful of buying the big names. I actually think that would be an interesting card to buy if you're buying it for like $1 or $2, because I don't think you're really risking too much paying that for one of his cards. Like, if you're buying an autograph, you're going to spend more money. I mean, obviously, these are obvious things. So, buying a few of them, getting them graded, or even buying an autograph. If the base card has dropped to that level, I think buying an autograph or buying like a numbered card may be a potential for you if you're looking to buy into a prospect who, he was hurt, I think, in his first year. Or it was either in his first year or I don't remember exactly what it was. But I know he was hurt and he had to get like Tommy John surgery or something. He had to get some surgery that kept him out for like multiple months. So that's one of the things. The other thing is that I've seen people complaining about the price, the pre-sale price online. And maybe this is not correct, but like, I just feel like people nowadays, they know. It's surprising to me that the price, it's surprising to me the reaction about the price every single time. And this is kind of similar to like, when that first card of the new product sells, it's always going to be higher and people are always going to be like, oh my God, and have like they're going to go crazy. They're going to go crazy about this first card sale. And oh my God, it's not worth it, all this stuff. Now with the price, it has gone up from what I saw and from some of the threads I was looking at. It looks like it's gone up about $50 for a hobby box. Whatever. The price, I think sports cards in general, I think, are in this weird boat of like a consumer product that holds and maintains value throughout the usage, I'm saying, within the opening packs. Like, you can buy cards and then sell them. You can buy what's in the card. It's really one of the only products that's like that. Like, sure, shoes are probably like that, but it's like not like you don't know what you're getting. If you're buying a pair of shoes, you know what you're getting. You're not really getting a mystery box or anything like that. I don't even think mystery boxes, sure, that's like a thing within, they do it. I've seen a couple different websites that do it. I wouldn't advise even really looking into it. It's not really worth your time. But like I said, sports cards it's in an interesting position where people want their cards to be worth money. And again, these arguments maybe I'm making are misguided, potentially. I think the straw man argument, I always talk about this because, using Twitter, and I downloaded Twitter again, just because whatever. I was using the Safari and just looking at twitter.com anyway, so I was like, whatever, I'll just download the app again, which I did notice something. The Twitter on the Safari and then Twitter on the app has like content that I thought was like has much more. Well, there was one thing that I noticed: the videos were much better, like they were much more interesting. But there was also a lot more angry people. That's one thing that I did notice, and maybe it was just I downloaded on a day where people were angry about something potentially with this Bowman thing. So maybe that's why people were more angry on there than I normally saw. But I saw other stuff that wasn't even sports cards related that was angry. It was people were being, they're angry about something, whatever. But that's social media for you in general. But either way, so sports cards, people want the cards to be worth money when they're buying the packs. I think a majority of people, that's what they're hoping for, unless you're pulling a card that you want. Like, if you pull a card that you want, like if you're collecting the card, or if you're just if you want a specific card, you don't really care what the price of it is if you're going to be not selling it. But it's like we want, as collectors and sports card people, we want the card to be worth money, but we also want to make money ourselves from opening up one of these boxes where sports card, like, the card companies, Fanatics, Panini, Upper Deck, whatever, any of them, they also want to make money. Like, this is kind of the crazy thing. It's like people are making money at every stage of the sports card process. Topps and Fanatics, they're making it from selling it to distributors. Distributors are making it from selling it to hobby shops. Hobby shops are selling it from selling it to customers. Customers are selling it. Customers are making money from selling the contents or buying a box and selling it however they want to do it. So it's like there's money being made. There's money being made within the ecosystem of sports cards at almost every single step. So, yeah, unfortunately, when that is the case, Topps and Fanatics are going to want to get a bigger slice of the pie here. And again, this goes back to the discussion I've had on multiple shows about blaster boxes, where blaster boxes went up in price, but they also went up in production. So it has to, in my opinion, it has to be one or the other, or we're going to see like a huge issue within the industry, I think, over the next few years. If card companies continue to raise the amount of cards that they're making, but then also raise the price, there is going to be a point where they jump the shark, I think is the expression, where the tip of the iceberg, jump the shark. They're going to jump the shark at some point. Like, there's going to be a point where, actually, because people, and that's one of the things I saw in the thread. People were saying, like, oh, we have to boycott these companies. And it's like, okay, first of all, relax. Second of all, then do it. Do it. Because this is the other thing. I think I see a lot of people white knighting on social media about cards, but then they just go out and buy cards. Like, they complain about cards all day. They complain about these companies all day, but then they just go out and buy them. Like, you look at their account and they're either selling them or they're talking about cards that they bought. And it's like, sure, if you're buying the individual cards, I think that's probably the best way to, I don't know, if you're protesting, I guess is one way to put it. That's probably the best way to do it. Like, because you're still getting the cards, or buying, I don't know, packs from a secondary thing. Like, don't buy cards from the company or whatever. But I don't know. Like I said, there's money that trickles down from every step. So it's like you buy a card, technically that, that card was in a pack, was in all, the money has all been distributed already. And I guess the other thing that I saw, and this will probably be the last point of this show, was, I saw people complaining about this being an issue with breakers. It's like, I don't know. I think that's an easy scapegoat. I think it's at some point we really have to, I don't know. I think people are just going to complain, and I get upset when people complain, and it's just like, and then I do a podcast about it, and I'm like, and then I get to the end of the podcast, I'm like, well, just another thing that people are going to complain about, and there's nothing we can really do about it. Just like the same way that, unfortunately, sports cards are going to keep coming out, and there's nothing that really people that are complaining can really do about that either. So I think it's a double-edged sword there. It's like we want the cards to be worth more money. At the same time, the card companies want the selling of the cards to be worth more money as well. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, and, we have another month till Bowman comes out. I'll probably be doing some research over the next month to see who the big prospects are that are going to be in this product. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of weird sometimes. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm very in on who are the big prospects every single year, and then sometimes maybe it's more I'm focused on the business of sports cards and not as much specific cards in general. But over the next few weeks, when Bowman comes out, hopefully you'll hear a preview. Maybe there'll be a player preview or something along those lines from myself, just about some players that you can look out for, or if you're opening the packs, players that when you're pulling the cards, making sure that you keep those cards and either sell them or, get them graded or do whatever you want with the cards, because like I said, within sports cards, PWCC is going to be selling one of the one-of-one Prism cards that came out of this year's product for Victor Wembanyama. Again, there's and there's 3 or 4 one-of-ones that are in that product. So, determining which one is actually the best is actually interesting because they're all one-of-ones. And I don't know, that's one thing that's weird with multiple Prism one-of-ones because they're literally all the same card, just a different color, and they're all one-of-ones. So it's like, how do you really even determine which one is most valuable? Now, if you were to ask the public, aka, social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, they would say the regular black one-of-one, not the shimmer. I don't exactly know why that is. Or even I forget it's like Nebula, maybe. I think that's what there's another one-of-one that is, I believe, some other spacey type one-of-one. I think it's Nebula. I'm pretty sure it's called Nebula, but it's like I said, it's that sort of spacey sort of design. And I would, as Prism, and I think it probably could be that maybe the black one-of-one was the first one-of-one that was ever in Prism. So it's like the shimmer came down the line and the Nebula came down the line. So it's like ultimately those ones became a little bit less valuable than the regular black one-of-one. But, that's sort of the conundrum I think that you're in when you have these cards in products. When you have the one-of-ones, multiple of them, different styles, but they're all one-of-ones. They're all the same base card design as well. That's another interesting piece of this. They're all the same base card design, and it's just it's one of the things that the hobby has just determined essentially that the black one-of-one is more valuable. Like I said, I think if I had to guess now that I'm kind of talking it out a little bit, it's probably because that card, just was the first of the 3 or 4 one-of-ones that were ever created for Prism, realistically. And I think that this year, for Victor Wembanyama, for example, he's one of the first players that's going to have a Bowman, a first Bowman basketball card, and then also a Prism card. And I'm not talking about the autographs because obviously Wembanyama is only in Topps because he signed an exclusive with Topps, so there aren't any Victor Wembanyama. Unfortunately, that also means that there's not going to be any Victor Wembanyama RPAs in National Treasures, which, that's a way bigger deal that I don't even think... I don't know what Panini is going to do to try and fix that, because he is the draw of that product. So if he's not going to be in there, I don't know what they're going to do. And I don't even know. Topps, I think, should come. I guess, like I said, Topps came out with his card in baseball dynasty, not basketball. So I think Topps needs to figure out a way to get some RPAs. I don't know if they can do that, maybe with the way that they have their license right now, but I think that they probably should try and do that. And so with what I was saying, the Wembanyama one-of-one from Prism, and then also the one-of-one from Bowman, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the hobby reacts to these cards and which one has value, because realistically, he's one of the first players that's going to have, like I said, that Prism rookie card, but he also has a first Bowman rookie card that, like I said, what I've said in the past, not on this episode maybe, but in the past, or what what Fanatics has done with basketball, adding in Bowman as one of their, main products because of NIL and all of these things. You're going to start to see more NIL players that had their first Bowman when they were in college, and then they get to the NBA, at least for a year or two, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, because now in a year or two, Topps is going to take over that license for basketball. So I think from this year and then next year, and I believe the year after that, some players will have that Bowman and a Prism. But I think it's also going to be interesting to compare, once Topps gets back into basketball, the Bowman products, because like the Bowman products versus whatever ends up becoming the Prism of Topps basketball, which I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think I would like to imagine that Fanatics looks at the Prism branding and somehow can like license Prism or something. I don't think that's a possibility, but if I'm Topps, it's like you have to, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what products start to come out for Topps basketball when they start to get the license back. Like, are they going to try and just use Topps Chrome, and that's going to become what Prism is? I think the hobby will determine what that card ends up being for like the most desirable rookie card. But it's going to be interesting, for one, which card that Topps really tries to promote as that card, and then two, which card ends up becoming that Prism rookie for Topps. Like, because I think it could be Topps Chrome, but I think, or does Topps come out with a new brand and they try and, similar to how Prism was only invented back in 2013. So it's not like this is like an old product, if you look at, for example, like any new products that have come out over the past few years, like we've seen a lot of change. The Topps flagship has always been kind of the standard for baseball, but for basketball, the rookie card has changed a bunch of times. And I think actually with Topps, mostly it's when Topps started being the exclusive for baseball. That's when that happened. But I think we have seen companies try and create a new product. Like Panini had the license. They kept when Panini bought Donruss, and Donruss was a brand that owned Contenders, which the interesting thing that I think I've looked at in the past is like Contenders was its own brand, and then Donruss bought Contenders, I believe, and I may be mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure this is the history of it. Donruss bought Contenders, and then Panini bought Donruss, and when Panini bought Donruss, that's when they started making the Contenders cards, and they kept the branding the same. So, like, does Panini or does Topps come in and try and do they try and buy a brand somewhere that's, like, maybe an independent sports brand? Like, or do they just try and create something in-house? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure what's the best strategy, because I think either one has its pros and cons, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I think buying a already existing IP somewhere, I don't know, Prism would be ideal, realistically, but I don't know if that's a possibility. So it might be you have to go to, like, Leaf, or you have to go to, like, Park City Collectibles. I know they do, like, the women's MLS, basically. And, like, do they try and buy a company that way? Do they try and buy a brand and make that brand the brand that is like the Prism of, Topps for basketball? Or do they try and create just a new brand for basketball? Like, do they come out with some like Cosmic, or do they come out with, I'm making some names up, like Cosmic, or like something like Prism, but not, something that has the aura of being like a shiny, cool card, but like obviously you can't go with Prism if you're not gonna be able to buy that. Or again, this is the third one, do you just do Topps Chrome, and you do with baseball, you use the same basically branding that you do with baseball, but you come out with different designs for it. Like, you could do the flagship product, but it would be a different design. Or you could do Topps Finest, or you could do Topps Chrome, but they're all going to be different designs than baseball. I don't know if I would like them to do that necessarily. Like, I don't know if I would like them to just if they're going to do that, they have to come out with different designs. I'm worried that they'll just roll out one design for every product, and it's just going to be across all the sports. It's the same design for that, whether it's Heritage, which actually Heritage basketball is going to be so cool. That's probably going to be one of the cooler products, and it's going to be interesting to see what Topps does there, just thinking off the top of my head. Or I hope that Topps is planning. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of still pretty far out, but it's just going to be interesting to see what they do, and which card, like I said, for Wembanyama and any rookies next year, or any rookies in the year after that, and then any rookies that are getting their Bowmans now, and then they're going to be in Topps products. Like, what's going to be the most popular or most valuable card? I don't think we really know at this point, but I think the Wembanyama Prism versus his Bowman Chrome is definitely going to be an interesting case study to look at in the future, either when Topps gets these products, gets the basketball products, or just kind of in general to see which card is worth more.